So here's everything laid out. Got the 2 rear jacks, 2 front jacks, got the 2 front mounting brackets, the 2 rear mounting brackets, the feet, all the hoses, and this is the pump bracket.
When I unpacked the pump, I noticed that one of these little red protective caps must have been rubbing against something during shipment. The plastic actually rubbed off, and I found some pieces inside and had to carefully remove them.
So cylinder identification shows that the rear are the tall ones, which are these 2 here, and then the front are the shorter 2. So the first thing it says here to do is to install the foot pad. This is use one of the jam nuts, which would be that one. Alright, it says to install the foot using jam nut and a 1/16 impact. That's weird. See that? That's just screwed on. Well, it doesn't, so I don't know why that one wants to be different. We just didn't get bored out. Interesting. Alright, now I have all of the feet on. It says remove port plugs with 3/16 inch Allen wrench, and then install the supplied JIC elbow, which is one of these. So next is inserting the limit switch clevis pin, we call that. With a 7/8 wrench. Okay, I'm under the rear passenger side looking forward, and it says to mount the rear jacks within 60 inches of the rear axle. So I've marked 60 inches with a piece of tape, and so I'm going to be looking at this area here, and it says not to drill into the extended frame, so that's way over here. You can see the frame addition, so it's going to be right in this area, and I hold the bracket up here. It has to be, of course, up like that, and then I'll be marking my holes to drill through. It says to drill a minimum of 4 holes. So why am I going on the inside? Because there's no room at all right here. I'd have to modify this, and I'm not doing it. Alright, so I've got the first 7/16 of an inch hole drilled, and I'm going to work on the second one. course, you got to be real careful. Mine has a gas line running right on the other side, but I measured everything, make sure I was well above it. Just be aware of it. So I got the rear jack all assembled with the bracket and ready to go. Gonna get up under there and bolt it up. And I chose, you know, this location just because it would give me the most clearance. They say 6 to 9 inches from the foot to the ground, and that'll give me right about 8 inches. I'm going to put in the left rear jack. Alright, so all I gotta do is put the lock washers and nuts on the back. I'm not sure why they don't give you flat washers for those, but they know what they're doing. Here's a view from the back side. Oops. So I'm looking at the front passenger, and I'm looking forward, and since this is a pre-2008, there are no holes that are already there. So I'm going to have to make my own, but this is where it's going to go. And they say to anywhere past this mount here, and of course on this side of this. So somewhere in this area, and this seems to be a good spot. So originally I was putting the bracket here, but when I put the jack in there, this fitting would have been very difficult to get a hose on there. That hydraulic elbow would have been hitting the frame, or at least rubbing really close. Very difficult to get the line on it. So I moved the bracket back a little bit, and there's a little bit more space in this area for that fitting. So I think that's where I'm going to go. So I'm looking towards the front at the passenger side, and I haven't marked where the front bracket is going to go. I have the 4 holes marked out. The problem is the standard drill will not fit. So you need an angle drill. So I got this Bauer angle drill from Harbor Freight, $44. We'll see how it works. Also, using one of these step bits helps a lot because they're very short, and so they'll give you a lot, they'll help you with the clearance problem. So again, that was purchased at Harbor Freight as well. So I got all 4 of the holes drilled. And now I'm on the driver's side facing forward, and I've marked the mounting bracket holes. I'm going to be able to use one of the pre-existing holes. I believe it's that one. And that's it. There's the other ones. I'm going to have to drill the other 3. Got the emergency brake right there. It's going to be just out of the way, I think. If not, we'll see what we can do with that later. So now I'm looking at mounting the pump, and it comes with this bracket. This is a bolt-on bracket. It's going to be on the driver's side just because the exhaust pipe, I'm looking forward, the exhaust pipe is on this side, and there's just no way. It's pretty open on this side, so the bracket conveniently fits over the frame, and it doesn't look like it will interfere with anything. Right there, that one looks like it might not need any drilling. So then I'll just drill one other hole on the other side. Then I'll mount the pump to the bracket after I paint that. Got the pump mounted. There's a ground wire that comes out of the top, and I just grounded it over here where the generator is grounded on the other side. You have this connector from the harness that goes in, and it is eventually going to plug into there's a plug here. It's just sitting there. So that's it. And then the power, which is supplied, comes in. I believe they said it was a 4 gauge. Comes in, and then you fasten it to terminal there. So time to fill it up. I've marked. It says to keep the level 1 3/4 inches below the top. So I just kind of made some hash marks to keep it that low. Probably going to have it a little bit higher because when you bleed the lines, you're going to lose a lot going through the lines. So probably just fill it up almost to the top. So you got to take out this little plug, put in the funnel, and I guess you don't spend enough on this unit, so they can't afford to give you automatic transmission fluid, but you have to buy your own. It's about $30 a gallon, so it says it has to be Dextron 3 or compatible. It also doesn't tell you how much it holds, so I guess we're fixing to find out. Yeah, it's about a gallon. There's just a little bit left over. So I'll take the cap back in. I've installed all of the lines. They do come in different sizes, so of course the longer one has to go to the furthest away jack, which I marked it here 18 feet, and then that was the right front, and then so on. So marking is helpful, I think. And then there's, in the manual, it tells you which ones go to where. So the power cable comes in here. It doesn't really say how to have it enter the box, but I went in there, and then you connect to there. But I just realized, just found out that this cable is a few inches too short to get to my battery. So I'm gonna reroute this, maybe go this way, and hopefully get the couple inches I need. It's 10 feet, but just not enough at this point. So something I found very odd is they tell you to install the cover using the 2 self-tapping screws. They just say, oh, be careful not to screw into the tank. But what's funny is, you know, there's really not much there at all to screw into. That would make me nervous. This side is about the same because when you consider this big hole there. So I'm not sure why they didn't pre-drill these. I'm sure they had their reason, but unless they want you to put 2 in the top, but then that could leave the bottom to flap open. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they meant to put one over here. They just don't say. They should have pre-drilled these. Anyways, I would feel really bad for someone putting one right in the center and popping their container. That'd be a hard one to learn. So the main power wire that's included is 10 feet long, but unfortunately where the battery is located on my RV, it's not long enough, so I need 13 feet. So I'm not going to be able to use this. And it's sad because that's a nice piece of wire, 4 gauge, you know, crimped. Got wire loom on it, heat shrink, but I can't use it. So what I did is I went to the hardware store and basically bought my own and put a crimp on there. And so it runs up here, and then it's going to run here. And basically it runs back to the battery box back there. So the power wire is up in there, runs along here, comes in over here, and then comes up to my battery tray. It's up here and is on the auxiliary side. There's an auxiliary at the bottom and then a battery side up top. The cable that goes directly to the battery right here, loops around, gets attached on top. So the main control wiring harness that's going to go to the Bigfoot panel is going up through the floor. There's a hole here where a lot of wires already go into the coach here, so I'm just utilizing that. It's going to go in under the sink and then go to where the side panel is near the door, where I'll cut a hole for the panel. And then there's this yellow wire that has to get to 12 volts ignition. If your jacks are down and you turn your key on, it'll send an alarm from your panel. So I'm going to have to find a place to hook this up. I'm looking at the power steps because it gets a 12-volt signal from the ignition to retract the steps when you turn on the key, so I'll probably just tap into that. So on mine, the main cable comes up through the floor. It's going to come across top of the furnace and then underneath the stove and then here to the panel. Here is the wiring for that. And then it has this little plate that goes over the top. And 4 screws. That's it. So I'm about ready to start the bleeding process. I did want to mention one thing. That these hoses don't have caps, protective caps on them. These, before these fittings were on, had these protective caps, and of course that's to keep the fluid in. These do come pre-filled with fluid, so you pop these off and then put the fittings on. But I was surprised that these were not capped, because it'd be a pretty simple plastic cap. Because you're going to be dragging these all around the place. You're going to be hitting the ground maybe. You're going to be pushing them through the chassis. You know, you can get some dirt in there. So what I just did is put some duct tape on it to protect it. But what I did notice is when you pull these off of the cylinder to replace it with the fitting, is these fit in there. So you could do that. I didn't figure that out until later. What I am going to do is I'm going to make sure and bring some of these with me. So if I'm ever out traveling and I need to remove a line or whatever, I can cap it, because these are going to be flowing with fluid if you ever need to disconnect a jack or something like that. But it states that you might need to pull the front jacks off in order to access the top, because it is hard to get to. Once it gets up in there, it's almost impossible to get a wrench on that, so I did leave these off. Bleeding process. Go! 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 So after bleeding the system, it did go down quite a bit. Here was, well, it was a little bit higher than the recommended level. Went down quite a bit. So I'm going to fill it back up. So this is the final installation of the pump. There's all the lines, the extra lines I just coiled up here and zip tie them on top, and there's it's mounted. That's it. Screws here and one over there, and then it tucks in under here. So when you undo the screws, you just pop it off to check the fluids. So this is the front right jack installed, finalized. See the switch comes zip tied here with the lines here, and kind of hard to see that one back there, but they fit good. See, here's you got the bracket, and it's bolted to the frame by here and here, and then the jack is actually bolted to that bracket. Go over to the other side. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of room up top, so I had to install those lines before I put the jacks in there. That's just pretty difficult to get a wrench in there. But it's not very hard to take the jacks back off if you need to. Now I'll go to the rear. Alright, so I'm coming to the rear jacks. There's the 4 bolts for the bracket. Mounted them on the inside of the frame. And then the driver's side. Now it comes with this stabilizer kit, and I believe you have to use that if you mount your jacks on the inside of the frame. If you mount them on the outside, you don't. I don't think you need this. However, there was no way I could do it. I don't have the clearance, so I have this, compartment. Of course, my propane line and all that. So, but.
I'm going to show you using the automatic feature to level the RV. Now I'm going to show you what will happen if you turn on your ignition while the jacks are down. And lastly is the retract all.
In closing, I have a few things to point out about the installation and operation manual. There is no package contents. It would have been nice to have that where you could see everything in your particular kit. This is the one I got. That's what the panel looks like, but it would just be nice to be able to know what all of the parts are. So there isn't one in this whole manual. Here on page 3, under mounting the cylinders, it states to attach the foot with a 3/4 inch jam nut using the 1 1/16 socket and impact. And that's all it says about putting the nut on. It just says impact. It would have been nice to have some more details about how much PSI to use on your impact gun. It doesn't say how far to put them on. So when I put the actual jacks into service, I noticed that the foot pads, once the jacks were released down, the foot pad was loose, and I thought that there was something wrong with it. We'll come to find out that they're loose on purpose, so in case you lower the jack on unlevel ground, the foot can kind of move where it needs to go. But when they're fully retracted, they're tight. So anyways, I just thought that maybe there could be a little bit more of an explanation on that. Something that's odd here on page 3 is they say your kit comes with 3/4 inch square cross braces, and they just throw it in here, and then we'll see later that they're also going to be on page 7. So I'm not really sure why they just didn't keep this all of the information about the cross braces on one page. So here they mention that the hydraulic lines will fit the majority of applications. Well, don't you think that after the company installing the kit enough that they would know what length of RV that it would cover? And I say that because my RV is 27 feet, which isn't, I don't know, it's kind of average size, and the longest hose, which was 18 feet 3 inches, was barely enough to reach the furthest away jack. So anything larger than a 27 foot, you would probably need to get additional lines. So what I'm saying is, I think they should say that the kit comes with enough of the hydraulic lines for the average of a 27 footer or maybe a 28 footer. It just puts people in a bind when they're trying to get this done and they don't have all of the equipment that they need. And speaking about the hydraulic lines, it would have been nice and pretty easy for the company if they would have labeled them the lengths. Since they didn't, you have to measure each one and then mark them so you can use them on the proper jack as far as distance goes. So of course, this one's going to be furthest one away from your central pump and so on to the closest. So here on page 6, they show the rear brackets being mounted, but they don't show a completed jack mounted to the bracket. It would just have been nice to kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like when it's completed before the user begins this process. Something else I thought that was odd is they have a mention here about welding to the frame. This is a bolt-on, so I'm not sure why that got stuck in there. On page 7, they talk about there's this attention modification to your RV or vehicle storage boxes, body, floor, exhaust, interior, etc. You may have to do this. So I thought, shouldn't this be at the beginning? So the first thing you see when you open this thing is oh, stop, oh, I might need to do all that work. Instead, they kind of put it down here, page 7, kind of far into the manual. I thought that was odd that it was so far in the manual. This is talking about the cross braces that we talked about earlier, that we looked at earlier. Here they talk about the cross braces, and then they just throw it in on page 7, and it's sideways. I'm not sure how much work it would have been to make that the same as the rest of the writing, but just kind of weird that they put it on page 7 as well. So page 18, looking at the vertical tank assembly for central pump systems, fasten the tank cover with at least 2 self-threading screws. Be careful not to puncture the plastic reservoir. Well, really the only way to put the attaching screws are here and here, because the cover goes over here and then would mount to here. Now this is to be done once it's installed. It says here, finally installing the plastic 3-sided tank cover. This should be done later in the assembly. Of course, you don't want to do it ahead of time because you have to fill this up and bleed the lines. But drilling this is a pain when this is already installed, because you're going to get all kinds of metal shavings all over this unit. So I just thought it would have been easier for the manufacturer to pre-drill these, so they're already done. You don't have to, there's no guesswork on where to put the attaching screws. So here on page 25, they mention this again about the hydraulic lines. They're universal. They mention it over here, down here in blue, page 3. So I'm not sure, why they have to add all of these things in different places. It looks like they kind of chopped this book together. So some final thoughts about this manual, or actually the whole kit. They should have included, or at least offered, enough fluid to purchase the amount needed. So they tell you to use Dexron 3 automatic transmission fluid. However, they don't tell you how much. And they know how much the tank holds. They just don't mention it here, because it looks like it's about a gallon. But once you go and you purchase a gallon for about $30, it does fill it up. But when you bleed the system, the tank goes down and you need to add more. It would have been nice if they would have said how much is needed. The only thing they say here is to make sure that it's around 1 3/4 inches below the top. Well, and they don't even tell you where that line is. But it'd be nice for them to have put a fill line so you could see where to fill it and see if it's above or below that line. Just seems like that would have been something easy to do. One other thing too is there's no zip ties. You need to buy a bag of those, because there's a lot of things that need zip tied, and it just seems like if this is a kit, then they should include those things. I know they're trying to cut costs. And then the 12-volt power wire was too short. It was a nice power wire, however, it just didn't reach my battery, or told me how long it was going to be before I purchased this, so I could have had a longer one ready to go. This is the extent of the troubleshooting guide. It's not very big. There's really nothing in here about troubleshooting the panel, if they have any panel beeps or lights or anything like that. So, anyways, I've used the system a few times and it's done what it's supposed to do. Sometimes using the automatic feature, the one that I chose, causes it to do unnecessary leveling, so I just end up using the manual buttons here instead of just hitting start. I'm not sure why it does that. I've seen that complaint somewhere else as well. Other than that, I like it. I would recommend it. Thanks for watching.